So welcome everybody. Here is how to complete your Jen Stark inspired drip project. So the first thing you notice is that I'm holding my canvas up and down, or in that portrait orientation today. I also have out my double puck. Remember, if your double puck is not out, you can look down here at the bottom. They have that little white dot, and that's your shortcut dot, and that'll allow you to pull out that double puck if you hit this button right here. Once you have your double puck out today, we're going to be drawing with our favorite drawing tool, that inking pen. So remember, once you tap the top dot of your double puck, it'll pull up your settings box. Tapping on the word library will bring you to your library of brushes. And then in that legacy collection, the second collection is where you'll find that inking pen. Once you select your inking pen, click back on those settings, and you want to set the size of your inking pen somewhere around 5. Remember, 5.1, 5.5, or 5.8 all work, as long as that first number is the number 5. We want to make sure that our opacity is up at 100. When we were looking at Jen Stark's artwork, it has a very cartoony vibe, so we want to be able to see those thick black lines. Once you have your inking pen set, you can go ahead and click in the gray area to make your settings box disappear. Then be sure that you have black in the bottom dot of your double puck. And we know that black is the darkest value of every color. So by clicking and dragging downward, you can change that luminance to 0, and you don't even have to pull out that color selector. Now, the last thing we need to do before we're ready to start drawing is we want to turn on our predictive stroke tool. That's going to help make sure that our lines are a nice, smooth drip pattern. So remember, when you hold your iPad in that portrait orientation, it hides some of your tools up at the top. So up at that top toolbar, simply scroll over until you see what looks like a little wiggly line. Remember, that's your predictive stroke tool. When you tap on it, you want to put your level to 3. We don't want it to straighten them into straight lines, but we do want it to smooth our lines out. So 3 will allow you to draw any organic shape you want, but it'll smooth out its edges. As I'm drawing my drips, I remember that they are organic, which means they're not going to make a pattern. So I'm going to start right in the top corner on the left-hand side, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a drip pattern, making sure that I'm not creating a perfect pattern, which is a hard thing to do. You can see it wants to be a long drip and a short drip and a long drip and a short drip. And I'm going to continue that all the way to the other side of the page. Now, if I don't like my first set of drips, remember I can always use that back arrow, get rid of that first line, and I can always try again. And if you guys are taking a mask break, you can go ahead and mask back up now. So again, I'm getting a little bit better, making sure that I don't have that obvious pattern. And you notice that my predictive stroke tool really smoothed out that area that was a little bit bumpy. I'm going to try one more time, and then I feel like I'll be able to move on. All right, so I'm very happy with this drip pattern. And again, you can see that that predictive stroke tool really evened out anywhere where my drip was in a nice, smooth, curvy line. Once you've established a drip pattern that you really like, now you're ready to make concentric drips that work their way down the page. And what that means is this next set of lines is going to mirror the first set of drips without ever touching it. So I'll go back to that left side of my iPad, and I'll follow those same drips, only I'm going to leave a little bit of a space in between my first set and my second set, kind of like when you're bubbling a letter. I'm going to continue this process all the way down my page. And I'm going to notice that the further down I go, the less definition I get in these drips. And that's okay. You simply mirror the line that's above the one that you're drawing. And I'm going to continue all the way down the page until I have no more space left at the bottom, trying my best to keep a consistent distance between my lines. Once I have my entire page filled, and I just want to make sure that that goes all the way off the edge, I'm ready to start thinking about color. And since each of these creates a shape or an enclosed space, I know that my best tool to add color is that fill bucket. So I'm going to go back up to this top toolbar. I'm going to turn off my predictive stroke tool. Remember, like my fill bucket, predictive stroke tool will continue to work until I turn it off. Once I've turned off my predictive stroke tool, I can move this top toolbar back over until I can find that paint bucket. I'm going to go ahead and click on my paint bucket. And for my first set of colors, I'm going to be using that solid fill. So be sure that the first selection is highlighted. Also, be sure that your tolerance is about in the middle. Then you're ready to start filling in each of these sections. So the first option that you have is to simply choose a rainbow of colors: red, orange, yellow. Now I'm going to pause for a second, because after I've done a few colors, I noticed that Jen uses a certain technique of contrast to make some of these colors stand out. And she uses contrast by adding a black and white area every once in a while. For our black and white sections, you're going to be using one of the gradient fills. So now I'm going to select either a radial or a linear gradient. It's totally up to you. Once I change my fill from solid fill to my gradient fill, I'm ready to go ahead and fill my next section. I'm not going to worry about the color that's in the bottom of the color dot. That's the last color that I use for my gradient fill. I know I can change those colors after I fill my section. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tap in that section, and then I'm going to follow along that dotted line to change all of these to blacks, whites, or grays. So I'll click on my first dot, highlighting it with a blue circle. Now I can go to the bottom dot of my double puck, and I can choose maybe a white for there. Remember, your choices for this section are white, black, or gray. I'll follow that dotted line upwards till I get to my next dot. I'll click on the next dot to highlight it in blue, and now I'll go ahead back to that bottom dot of the double puck, and I will pick my next color. And I'm going to go for gray for that next one. I'm going to do a nice fade from white to gray. I'll close that out by tapping in the gray area and follow along to the last dot on that dotted line. I'll click it to highlight it in blue. And now in my double puck, I'll select that black color. So now I have this nice section that has a black and white design in it. And you can already tell that it's making this rainbow section stand out a little more. Don't forget that you can sort of move how much highlight and shadow you have by dragging these dots up and down the dotted line and moving them around. Once I've assigned my black and white colors to one of the sections, I'm going to go back to my rainbow pattern. So I need to remember to change back to solid fill. So up in my top toolbar, I'll go ahead and click that first selection. And now I can go back to my next set of colors. After yellow, I can change it to green. And then blue. And then purple. And maybe I want to use my pink in there. And then I could even go back to red when I get back to the beginning. So that's one way to go ahead and complete this project, and just try to hold those questions until the end. Another option that I have for this project is I can use some of my complementary colors that I can get when I'm using my Copic markers. So if I tap the bottom dot of that double puck and I move over to the Copic side, I remember that I can pick any color that I like. So maybe I want to pick that purple there. And it's giving me a list of complementary colors that I could use along with these purples that will help each other stand out. So another option that you have for this project is to use some of those purples, and I can simply darken it to get my next value by dragging downward. And when I get to a color that I want to pop, I can find that Copic color, and I can simply choose one of its complements. Then I can go back to my original color. Again, maybe I'm darkening it a little bit more this time and working my way down. Oops, let me go ahead Close off that little section because you saw it wanted to fill both of them. I'll go back to my purple. There we go. Now I'm making some of these really dark purples. And then I can even go back and grab another one of those complementary colors. So that's another way to add a little bit of contrast to these without using that rainbow-like design. So maybe I'll go back to my light ones here. And I'm done. So today, as you work on your Jen Stark inspired drips, remember you can choose between creating a rainbow like Jen does and using a black and white section every now and again to create some contrast. Or because we know about our Autodesk app, we can choose a color from our Copic markers, create lots of different values of that color. And then for our contrast sections, use one of those complementary examples that pops up when you select one of your colors at the bottom of your color selector. So I hope you guys had fun with this really psychedelic, cool rainbow illusion inspired by Jen Stark.